Your Steve Jones Show podcast will start shortly. The Steve Jones Show podcast is sponsored by Brewers Outlet, your beverage supermarket on Reagan Street in Sunbury. Sports talk where your voice counts. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Now from the Sunbury Motors Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Today's show brought to you by Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket. Imports, domestics, microbrews. Best selection of beer anywhere. Maybe you like wine coolers, water, soft drinks, snacks. They roast their peanuts fresh and hot every day. And the pickle bar, led by the barrels and the dills, even though Buhner does prefer garlic. Indeed, second to none. This is one-stop tailgate shopping. Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket. They have everything you need for a whiteout. And we're in the Sunbury Motors Studio. Best in the business. Best product, best sales staff, best service department. Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. Play-by-play call of the day. Denver could not get it done against the Chiefs in every facet, including on offense.
Philip Lindsay back in the lineup while Janovich sprints to the near side, the former Nebraska Cornhusker. The throw is Flacco. Again being pressured, he's hit. The ball's out. The ball is picked up by Ragland. Touchdown, Kansas City. The Chiefs get another sack from Hitchens and a pickup by Ragland. The defense picks up the team after the injury to Mahomes and gets a defensive score.
Won with relative ease last night, 30-6. If you haven't heard the news, the MRI shows that Patrick Mahomes is probably out 3 weeks. They released that this afternoon. 3 weeks for Patrick Mahomes. You know, in this date in history, back in 1977, Reggie Jackson hit home runs on 3 pitches in a row that he saw. I want to say it was, Elias Sosa. Would have been one, Bob Welsh, and Charlie Huff. I do believe are the 3 pitchers. You would think at some point you'd throw a couple in the dirt, But with that, here in the Sunbury Motors Studio, we bring in our Hall of Fame broadcast partner, Jack Ham.
Well, thank you. 20 years, and I tell you what, it has gone by very, very quickly, and I enjoyed every minute of it. But every team has been different, and this team is also very different, and it's on a roll right now.
There are certain known entities on this team that you and I have talked about since day one. One of them was team speed. It's one thing for you and me to look at a practice and say, boy, they're really fast. But now we've seen it in 6 games of practical application. What has that team speed meant, especially defensively?
Well, I can go back to the play in the Maryland game when Cam Brown – and we know what the speed in that backfield was McFarland from Maryland and what he could take a play to the distance at any time on a snap of the football. And it was a wide play, and I think John Reed contained the play on the outside.
He did.
And from the inside comes Cam Brown. And I think a year ago that might have been a 15-yard run downfield, first down, and one of our secondary people have to make the tackle. Cam Brown held that to, I think, a 2 or 3 yard gain because he came flying to the football. There's a guy from that linebacker position who has really, really upped his game this year, and probably everybody on that defensive side.
And in that game, Michael Parsons was hit with a targeting call in the first quarter. Jesse Luketa stepped in at that point. What does it tell us that, while being impressed with what Luketa did, Penn State didn't see a drop-off in its defense?
No, the depth of the football team right now, where they've competed through spring practice and also fall camp, and that linebacking core has just gotten so much better, and the competition for playing time is out there. And that is why, Brent Pry is rotating so many of those people back there, not only the defensive linemen and secondary, but with the linebackers as well. Jesse Luketa is 6'3", 245 pounds. He can run. I mean, he plays well in space. I told a couple of people, when you see Cam Brown out there and Parsons and Luketa, they look like power forwards in the NBA because they have such length. And I think that's, after the speed part of it, I think that's what you want. You want that at your corners, on your man-to-man coverage on the outside, and with your linebackers as well, because as time goes on in the year, those linebackers will get underneath a couple of routes, tip the ball, get interceptions. We already have Jan Johnson getting one to set the tone in Maryland. So, I mean, the linebacking core is so athletic now, and it's great to see where James Franklin, this is a great credit to recruiting that he has done, not just 1 year, over the course of years, to get this football team where they are just rotating so many people out there.
Guys like Shaka Tony, Yetur Gross-Matos, Robert Windsor, Mustafa Shelton. But the guy that always seems to get bypassed, except not on our broadcast, because we've talked about this a lot, but the guy that seems to get bypassed sometimes in this defense in terms of recognition is Jan Johnson. What does a guy like that mean to allow the other people to be in the position they can be to make plays?
Well, Jan Johnson is like the glue out there. You have five-star linebackers. You have five-star defensive linemen out there and in the secondary as well. But you need that one guy. And a lot of times it's got to be that senior. I mean, he is so well aware of everybody on the field, what their responsibilities are, getting people, the defensive line in the correct gap, making sure the outside linebacker and the secondary in the coverage, because you blow a coverage and all of a sudden you have somebody wide open downfield. And you have not seen that all year with this Penn State defense. They've been smart. They've been athletic. They can run, but they've also been smart out there. And you need a guy like a Jan Johnson or a John Reed in the secondary, who also, as the game goes on, it's not going to play out just exactly like you scripted it in practice. There's going to be some changes you got to make on the fly during a series while you're out there. You can't wait until you get to the sideline after giving up a big play or a touchdown or whatever, and then make your changes, make some adjustments. So guys out there, but Jan Johnson in the middle, I don't think he gets enough credit.
I think a lot of people love to see when a player can come in and be an impact guy right away. That five-star guy. Lamont Wade went through his first couple of years, and he played, but he wasn't that, quote, impact guy. Starting in the spring, you and I started to see some signs. Where has he become better? Because it's obvious he's become really good.
Well, I think, number one, you think about him. I mean, he was in the transfer portal, and from there, he comes out of that and works his butt off in spring practice. And the coaches talked about him and told us about him, how well he was playing. Yeah. You get into fall camp, and he continues that. The arrow is still pointing up for him as well in fall camp. And now you're seeing it right now. I think normally the mismatch a lot of teams have with their wide receivers is trying to get that wide receiver on a safety.
Right.
He has covered so well right now in the last couple of games when they're trying to go to that slot guy, and he's one-on-one coverage out there, breaking underneath the receiver, making the ball go over his head for an incomplete pass, and he has just upped his game. And I think that's what's really key about this football team, especially defensively. You have different guys making big plays in a football game. They're not the same guys doing it. Last week Brisker with the interception that really kind of turned that football game around. The only negative I looked at last week defensively, we had a chance to really put the ball game away with Castro Fields on an interception, and that was a zone coverage. He had seen it enough time throughout the course of the game. He jumped the route. It's a zone coverage. He literally has deep 1/3. And I found that out yesterday. I'm going, boy, that's aggressive when you're taking what you should be responsibility is, but you saw it in front of you. You reacted to it, and also Taylor also missed an interception as well that could have iced a football game. We got to catch those. And those are impact plays, and both of those defensive backs had a chance to finish a game.
Yeah, because Castro Fields has enough experience, because you and I both felt that he baited Jackson of Maryland into that interception.
Without question. Right. Yeah. And that play, normally you would think you're in a cover two or you're rotating up and now you fool the quarterback and throwing right in the teeth of that zone. But he's playing a deep 1/3 and just ball reacted to it very, very quickly, but just didn't hang on to the football. We've got to do that down the stretch because these games are going to go into the fourth quarter, a lot of these football games, and those kind of defensive plays that we're starting to make more of them, but we got to make sure we get those interceptions when we have the opportunity.
It's interesting because you and I were talking yesterday. Some corners they love playing man-to-man, but when they play zone, like you were talking about Mel Blount. Mel Blount loved to play man, but playing zone was like it wasn't his forte.
Right. I mean, he loved the challenge of a one-on-one coverage, and he was 6'4" and about 215 back then. and he would just manhandle receivers at the line of scrimmage. I think we've got to do also a better job of redirecting. We don't have to actually knock them down, but just redirect a wide receiver, or redirect the slot guy, or a tight end, and that all of a sudden that enables your safeties don't have to cover as deep a field downfield. You are reacting up to it. And those little things, which this defensive football team is getting better and better at, I think is going to make this defense even that much better down the stretch.
You and I have seen in our experience a Trace McSorley, a Darrell Clark, a Michael Robinson, and what the mobility of a quarterback can be, not just the offense, but in the red zone. That 3rd and 10 call with Sean Clifford, what should that tell everybody about not only Clifford, but also as it tells about Ricky Ronning?
It'll talk about the fact of when you're in that red zone area defensively, you've got to make sure that quarterback will run with the football. That's on tape right now. That was a 3rd and 10.
Yes.
And the 3rd and 10 you convert with a running play against a very good Iowa defensive football team. We out-schemed them. You're coming up the field. You think it's going to be a pass situation. And running the football in that red zone, and I think if you don't have a mobile quarterback, you're almost playing with one hand tied behind your back. When you have the quarterback like the guys you mentioned in that red zone area, all of a sudden it opens up so much more because there's not a whole lot of territory to throw the football downfield. You're going to be very aggressive with your safeties and your linebackers jumping routes and whatever. So with a quarterback who can run the football that effectively, that is a big part of that red zone offense.
Watching him throw the ball. Now, the first quarter, he didn't play well against Iowa. I think that's safe to say. I thought the last 3 quarters he played pretty well. When you've looked at his progress, what have you seen from the first couple of weeks of the season to the last couple of weeks of the season with Sean Clifford?
I think it's the decision-making, when to get out of the pocket, when to run with the football. He's making those decisions. He bounces out of the pocket. He's still initially looking downfield for a receiver first and then running with the football. I think he's a much more effective runner than most people think. They thought McSorley, for some reason, ran a 4.2, and Clifford runs a 5 flat. Which is really not the case. He's nifty enough. He's got to learn to hook slide a little bit, or we're going to have a quarterback in 2P here. Because
that's a really good point. Because this is not a joke. We're not kidding around about this. You have to be good at that because you need. Even on a quarterback sneak, Patrick Mahomes got hurt last night. There's something to that. Because there was one, he went down, I think it was Purdue, he went down really late, Jack, and he got tagged.
Yeah, I think he was indecisive what he wanted to do.
Right.
And then I think when McSorley did it, he in the back of his brain, he knew where that first down yard marker was, when you got to take your hook slide a little bit further because they're going to mark it exactly where you start that hook slide. Right. And about 2 or 3 times, Clifford has been short of a first down. He could have easily converted those as well. But in that instance, in the Purdue game, I think he was just indecisive whether he wanted to go forward and at the last second try to hook slide. We ended up getting a targeting call against the Purdue defender. I'm not sure that's and he wasn't sure what Clifford was going to do as well on the play, and then he got tagged with the targeting call.
But the last time I can remember the way Penn State closed out the game, I had to go back to the 2007 Outback Bowl where Tony Hunt and that offensive line closed out Tennessee.
What a great runner he was.
When you watch the offensive line tight ends in conjunction with Noah Cain in the last 2:31 of that game, what were we looking at there?
Well, I think number one, I'm sure the defense did not feel good about the fact giving up the touchdown right at the end of the game and putting Iowa kind of back into the football game. But closing it out when Iowa, who's a very good run-down defense, we ran the football for $177 against a very good defense against the run. To be able to take that football and close that game out, running the ball in typical Noah Cain fashion. He breaks a tackle, he bounces it forward. He can on third down, he ends up getting the first down, and then we can continue with the clock. And those things, and the offensive line as well. And when you have a back that's really that second effort guy, that downhill runner, and I think James Franklin really likes the way he finishes off runs. So many runs in that game. Another running back may have been down. He ends up getting 2, 3, or 4 more yards. One play along the sideline, he was able to convert, stay in bounds, and then go upfield and get a first down when we were deep in our own territory. Those are the kind of things that when you finish, it gives an offensive line and the entire offense a confidence factor going forward, because you're right, we haven't closed out a game with our offense on the field in a long time, and that's a great way on the road.
Yep.
When Iowa knew we were going to run the football.
Obviously, there's one ball. All right, Hamler is a big-time player. Dotson's a big-time player. Freiermuth, Shorter can be. We'll talk about Shorter in a moment. Penn State in the game on Saturday night did not have a completion, and all the completions were either to the wideouts or to Freiermuth. No running backs. Moving forward, getting running backs involved in the pass game, what can that mean?
It can be huge for us going forward, because this game, whether it's college or pro football, is a game of matchups. How on a man-to-man cover, like, for example, tomorrow, Michigan, although they're playing a little bit more zone, they are a bump and run, man-to-man. We're going to live with 2 or 3 or 4 pass interference calls, so be it. We're going to be aggressive out there. So you look at the matchups where you think you can win at it. 2 years ago here, when we would Barkley, wheel route and any route he ran, it's an easy throw to your running back, and there's nobody in the middle of the field. That is, everybody else is cleared out, and he's got that linebacker one-on-one covering him out of the backfield, and those are kind of mismatches, because all our running backs can catch the football and run good routes out of the backfield. Slade may be the best one at that so far, but I think all those guys can, in fact, do that. And as time goes on, and you want matchups, a lot of times it's our slot guy, Hamler, against maybe a safety, although they'll deuce him, I'm sure, a lot of times tomorrow. But the other matchup is our running backs against the linebackers on one-on-ones and option routes out of the backfield, which are an easy throw for Clifford.
The actual kicking of the ball, Pinniger, Gilligan, Stout, what has that meant, and what does that mean to a coaching staff when you've had an area of reliability physically kicking the ball?
Well, first of all, in the back of the mind of James Franklin, knowing the fact that he can, if you get a couple of first downs right before, like right before the end of the half against Purdue, and making that 57-yard field goal.
Right.
I don't think Gilligan got enough credit for the win last week on the road. Special teams on the road. Make an offense like Iowa go the entire length of the football field. They don't have that type of an offense. I mean, and so far, trying to move the football against Penn State, they moved it here or there in a certain plays, but just could not put that whole thing together. And Gilligan did a great job of making sure they had to go 90 yards. Right. And that's special. Those hidden yards, especially when there's 2 good defenses out on the field, that's your field position, those hidden yards in special team, that we were able to win that battle.
And I'll graphically put it out for everybody. Penn State's average drive start was the 33 last week. Iowa's was the 17. In 11 possessions, that's 176 yards.
Yeah, and for your offense, I think you open up more. I think you don't close it down because you think you got to dig out of a hole. You're deep in your own territory. I mean, the whole playbook is open to you when you start with that kind of field position. Right. And our offense, I think, feels very comfortable, obviously. And our defense does a great job of getting 3 and outs and creating field position as well. But going forward, you can see our schedule. It does toughen up quite a bit here in the second half of the season. And all those little things can be a big factor in the game.
All right, Michigan. This is obviously one of those line-in-the-sand moments for them, especially after the Wisconsin game. So that makes them a dangerous team with a lot of talent. When you look at them, what do you see?
Well, right now I see they have 3 running backs that they play out there, but the one running back is 210 pounds, runs hard. This offensive line is big and solid, and defensively, I don't think they're as good as when they had Devin Bush and the cast of characters they had last year.
Winovich and Gary.
Yeah, and those guys were, they're all number 1 picks or number 2 picks in the NFL and playing well in the National Football League. They've got athletes, and you made a good point. I mean, this is a come to Jesus time for this football team in this game tomorrow night. I mean, you push somebody against the wall like this right now, I don't know how they will react. I think one thing could be a big factor tomorrow is this crowd.
Yes.
This whiteout.
Absolutely.
And in fact, I talked to Dan Deerdorf, who is an offensive lineman, a Michigan graduate who does the color for the Michigan network. And I asked him about crowd noise. And those tackles out there, it's that split second, that little bit that they are just because you're going on movement, because you're not going on the snap count because you can't hear, especially the tackles that far away. That little bit with Gross Matos on one side, Shaka Tony on the other against two tackles out there, that can be a big factor. I think in any sport, football, the home field advantage, especially when you have 110,000 fans out there, that can be a huge advantage for us, our defensive line against their offensive line tomorrow.
And one last part, and nobody's talked about this week, but when I look back at last year's game, Patterson had a couple of really well-timed runs. Nobody's talked about him as a runner, and I think that's something Penn State needs to contain.
Yeah, and he's a tough kid, too. He'll turn it up inside and run with the football, and you're right. He handles the read option very well, and he's a good ball handler. But he has been, though, inconsistent.
He sure has.
He will take a ball and throw it on a rope downfield. You'll see a play, and you'll say, my goodness, this guy is as talented as you can get in college football. And then he'll throw a ball, then you'll wonder why in the hell he threw the ball there. Right. So he has been inconsistent here. I'm not sure they've entirely bought into this new offense right now with Josh Gaddis. And
it's an adjustment.
Yeah, because they are a downhill, hit you in the mouth kind of offensive running game, and they don't have that right now. And talking to all our coaches, number one, we have to stop that running game. Because if we don't stop the running game, we'll be in for a long evening tomorrow night. But that's going to be our challenge here tomorrow night.
Thanks
for being down here.
Hey, appreciate it very much.
My pleasure.
It meant a lot to everybody having you.
All right, see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Yeah, I think I'll show up. Hey, don't forget the time card we have to punch in.
Oh, that's right.
Jack Ham here in the Sunbury Motors studio. The King next half hour with picks here on News Radio 1070 WKOK, brought to you by our good friends at Brewers Outlet. When it comes to car buying, there's the other guy's way, and then there's the SMC way. The other guys force you into a vehicle you really don't want. The Sunbury Motors way lets you take the time you need to browse, ask questions, and take the test drive and think on it. For over 100 years, the Mertz family and all their employees have made your experience the most pleasant one you'll ever have. The other guys won't offer you the best price for your trade, no matter how much they say they will. The SMC way is their promise to provide you with the most money the market shows your vehicle is worth. The SMC way is to offer you all applicable factory rebates on new vehicles and generous discounts. Looking for a pre-owned vehicle? The SMC way checks each vehicle in a 200-mile radius to determine the lowest price, then beat it. It's the lowest price promise, just part of the SMC way. The choice is up to you. The other guy's way or the SMC way. The SMC way wins every time. Sunbury Motors Company in the North 4th Street Auto Plaza, Sunbury, and at sunburymotors.com. Selling more cars and satisfying more customers for over 100 years.
Party time, game time, or just fun time. Doesn't matter what time it is, because it's Brewers Outlet time. The beverage supermarket has the area's largest beer selection, imports, microbrews, ciders, and domestics. Pick from over 100 ice-cold 12-packs and dozens of 24-ounce singles. Soda, snacks, hot sauces, fresh roasted peanuts. Make it one-stop party shopping, and don't forget the pickle bar. So whatever you're celebrating or just doing it up, Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street, Sunbury wants to see you. And thank you for your years of patronage.
Taking your calls at 800-795-9565. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Now from the Sunbury Motors Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Today's show brought to you by our good friends at Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket. Imports, domestics, microbrews, best selection of beer anywhere. Perfect for the tailgate. Also at the tailgate, perfect wine coolers, water, soft drinks, plenty of snacks. They roast their peanuts fresh and hot every day in the pickle bar, led by the barrels and the dills, although Buhner prefers the garlic. Indeed, second to none. All at Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket. Get in the car now and go stock up. Listen to the show as you drive over. We're in the Sunbury Motors studio, where Jack Ham was moments ago. Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. Shawn, we will now bring in the league leader.
He is. Formerly number 78 in the Enfield, Connecticut high school program. Number 1 in our hearts. Yes, here he is. Our Friday tradition, unlike any other. Steve, your brother. Shamalama Ding Dong. Kevin Jones.
Going by thunder, shamalama ding dong. What up? How's it going?
That's what you've been doing. You lead off your text with me with the games we're going to pick with the shlamalama ding dong.
Because I'm excited. I don't know why.
You should. You're killing us.
That's exciting for me.
You're killing us. That's
okay.
why. You're killing us. Mopping us
I'm
up.
picking the games I know that are right. So, I have no idea. I'm picking the games that I think are intriguing. I really don't. I look at them like I don't know who's going to win, and that's the one I pick. Or if they're 50-50s or definitely top 20. I'd love to put Penn State in there, but we know who we're going to take. So, and none of us are going to pick against them. So, but I think they're going to win big this week. So, I don't think Michigan's that good. Who do they play next week?
Penn State at Michigan State.
That's a win. How about after that?
Bye week.
That's a win. How about after that?
At Minnesota. They're
good.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be more afraid of Minnesota than Michigan or Michigan State. Minnesota's a good football team. They're the one that would sneak up and beat you,
Yeah.
But anyway, you know what bugged me this week? I always think of what I want to talk about when I come on. I follow sports real close. I'll have Sports Center on all night long. I sleep with the TV on. It stunned me. The NBA has not started its season. They are playing the preseason like it's a regular season. And ESPN is showing it like it's a regular season. I don't know if you heard Breanna Stewart. She was talking about women's basketball, and she was furious that they were showing preseason NBA over the finale game of the WNBA. And she said, how can we grow our product if they'd rather show preseason NBA? And she's right. At first I thought, oh, Breanna, get over it. And then I'm watching it. I'm like, I thought the season already started. So,
$1.4 billion.
Yeah.
That's what ESPN pays every year. The whole contract is not worth $1.4 billion.
Yeah,
it's worth $1.4 billion a year, and ESPN, because of the massive investment they've made, is trying to cover it wall to wall with the idea they can make it the second most popular sport in this country behind the NFL.
It's incredibly boring until they get to the playoffs. What a long
I'm just explaining
their
what ESPN is doing.
Is like a month long. It's crazy. They got to burn these guys out.
Oh, I mean, believe me, they've been over the years. They haven't done one in a while, but over the years, there have been several preseason games in the Jordan Center.
It's just I don't. Am I off the mark here? I thought season started the way ESPN was showing the top 10 plays of the day, and it's like they haven't even started yet.
It used to be that when the NBA season started, that's when they'd start doing that.
Yeah.
But I think that the mandate is simple. If we're going to invest $1.4 billion in this, 10 figures a year. Right, a year.
Yeah.
Right. We're going to do everything we can to hook everybody in like it's the most important thing going. And Breanna Stewart has a point. So I'm in no way, shape, or form will I even put down her point, because she's trying to fight for her league and fight for her sport, which was in the championship round. So I completely understand what she's saying, and I also think she's right, because there's a ranking system here. There's the NBA Finals, incredible. NBA playoffs, really good. Regular season, not as noticeable. And if the regular season is not as noticeable, imagine what the preseason is.
Yeah. I just, this year to me was over the top. You know,
Well,
they are treating it like the regular season and showing all the who's the best in the West and who's the. Oh my gosh, they got about 80 more real games to play. They haven't played a real game yet. You know.
Well, in fact, a guy's going to stop by the booth tomorrow. We're not going to have him on the air, but he's going to stop by the booth. You know, we're going to get a chance to talk to him a little bit. It's Mike Gorman, who does the Celtics games, and Mike's wife Terry, good friends with Tom and Julia McGrath. Terry was just going to take Megabus, from Connecticut to come in for the game tomorrow.
Wow!
And Mike has a preseason game or had one in Cleveland, and he said, "Nah, don't do that. I'll come on. We'll drive over together." He said, "I'd like to go to see this too." So Mike's going to be here tomorrow, and I'll ask him about that, about what it's like trying to do the preseason versus the regular season, because Mike has to do enough games.
Yeah, I just find it. I was like, wow, I think it was 2 nights ago. I said, the season hasn't started yet. These are all preseason games.
Yep.
They got their records underneath the, it's like.
Right. And you know what's odd? You know what's odd about that is that we always talk about what ESPN pays for the NBA. We always talk about that, $1.4 billion. We never talk about what TNT pays. TNT pays $1.2 billion a year. And they don't do anywhere near the stuff ESPN does.
No,
they don't do anywhere.
Their pre-games and post-games are much better. I like Barkley in them.
Ernie Johnson is brilliant at what he does. Yep. Not just good. Ernie Johnson's brilliant how he works that set with Barkley and Kenny Smith and Shaq and the whole thing. I mean, TNT, what they do is on pregame, postgames, far superior to ESPN. ESPN doesn't know what to put in there.
Go ahead.
No, I mean, I'll say this: ESPN's lead broadcast team, Mike Breen, is excellent.
Yes,
Mike
he was
Breen,
on the fan forever on the Imus show. He was so good on that.
Mike came in and guest lectured in my class a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
and you want to talk about an absolute incredible talent with zero ego, none. Yeah. I mean, and that's who Mike Breen is. I mean, superior talent,
he's
superior guy.
Funny.
Oh.
He's got a dry sense. He was so good on the Imus show.
Well, that's the first question I asked him in class, Kev. I asked him, I said, what did the Imus experience? I said, you try to garner whatever you can out of that experience. And, what did you garner out of the Imus experience? He said you had to be on time, on point, completely prepared, and you had to write well.
Had to what?
Write well.
Oh,
in other words, he
well?
did this. Yeah, he'd do the sports updates. He had to write them.
Yeah, I know, but it was so off the cuff half the time because Imus would just, cut him off, and he was quick-witted. He had his quick comebacks, that.
He's a smart guy.
He had him. He was good. It was never the same after Breen left.
No.
So, he was good.
But Mike's in the spot he should be in.
With the NBA, so.
And he should, because he's not
as
just
good as there ever was. So.
No question. Of all the guys that have done the NBA, I know a lot of people love Marv Albert, and I think Marv Albert is outstanding. Like I said, but
he's all right.
But I think Mike's better, and that's just a personal taste.
All that. Remember the whips and chains?
Oh yeah. Oh, I understand that stuff. I'm just talking about the ability to do the games.
That's all I see when I see Marv Albert is a whip and a chain. I don't.
But.
That's how shallow I am.
but Mike Breen is superior. Yeah. And the guy, I'll tell you, and the guy that we're going to talk to tomorrow for a little bit, Mike Gorman. Mike Gorman's great.
Yeah, I listen to
Mike
him.
Gorman Mike Gorman's a great announcer. Oh, he did the
guy
Big
from
East.
Penn State's pretty good.
I
forgot his name though. I don't know.
Brian Tripp on hockey is excellent.
You should have him on your show.
Tripp? Yeah, we should get Tripp on the show.
No, Jones. That's Steve Jones. You should have him on the show. I'd be interested to hear what he had to say.
He's not very popular.
Oh, my poor Yankees are getting whipped up on, huh?
They are, but when I look at the Yankees, this is what I see. And sometimes it catches up to you because in the postseason, what happens in the postseason is that...
Hitters.
Well, no, but it's more than that. When you get to the postseason, suddenly the pitching staff that you're facing on an everyday basis is really good. The lineup you're facing on an everyday basis is really good. You're not going through and go, oh, we got the Orioles, let's have the breather. So now you get into these tense games where you notice it's lower scoring, which puts a greater premium on defense, a greater premium on clutch hitting. And so now you go through a game where Greinke, you got to him a little bit, but now you got Verlander. Well, okay, now the pressure's on. And if you get successful there, then you got Garrett Cole. The problem is the Yankee starters, to me, Kevin, don't go deep enough into the game to make a difference.
You can't win with a bullpen in the playoffs. You've got to.
That's why all these bullpen days.
What's bizarre to me is how Washington, with that pitching staff, did not win the East. It's just bizarre to me.
Well, they got themselves beyond the eight ball. They got themselves beyond the eight ball. On May 23rd, they were 12 games under 500. That's a bad start. So to get to the playoffs, they had to play, I think, what they end up from May 23rd on, Shawn, 40 games over 500? Some number like that. Right? So that's good enough to actually win the division. It's just like they got off to such a bad start they couldn't.
Bad start, so... Man.
And the bullpen.
Is the manager for the Phillies back?
No, he's gone. So now we're waiting.
I thought the CEO jumped in and said...
No, he's gone.
Okay. Because I read where the CEO said, no way am I going to allow him to walk. So
Gabe Kapler? Gone.
Yeah.
All right, let's get some picks.
Yeah, let's do that. All right, so the King is leading with a sterling record of 35-25. Only one loss in the last 2 weeks, and that was last week. And that was, which one was? Oh, you chose the Chiefs over the Texans last week.
Stupid me.
Yeah. So, but 35-25. Steve, you are 31-27 so far after 8 weeks, going 5-2 last week. And we continue to reside in the pit of misery after a 3-4 effort last week. I am 27-24 as we head into week 9 to try to get my dignity back, get some wins, play some catch up. So let's see.
You'll be fine.
No, you're just saying that. You're
You still set you set the bench so high last year.
It was an anomaly.
Yeah.
It was
no, it wasn't. You were really good.
Well, but
you're still good. This
we're
is
not
the roll of the dice.
Backing it up though. That's the thing. It's last year was a fluke, complete fluke. All right, so we got our Super 7 for the weekend. We'll dive into the college games first. All right, so South Carolina, the team that shocked Georgia last week, they are at home against Florida. So is our leader going to go first?
No, I'll go first. I got Florida.
Yep, I do too.
Florida will win. Superior defense. So they'll win the game. Florida's defense is playing terrific.
Yeah, that was a great game last week with Florida.
Yeah.
All right, to the Pac-12, a.k.a. the Conference of Champions. Who said that? Oh, yeah, Bill Walton. That's right. Oregon at Washington.
Ducks. I got Oregon.
Yep, I also have the Ducks.
I have Washington. I'm going to take Washington.
That's a cool pick. Yeah. Oh, they're good.
Please follow Sir Brad. He's going to give you a private tour of the pit of misery.
All right. There we go.
We're there.
That's where I could be. That's where I could be with that pick.
No Ducks.
All right, we will stay in the Pac-12. The Fighting Herm Edwards, Arizona State at Utah.
I love Herm. And people were cutting down Arizona State last week, saying, but they've fallen behind in games and they barely beat these teams, and then they turn around and win again. I'm taking Arizona State. I love Herm.
I'm going to go with Utah.
Please follow Sir Brad. He's going to give you a private tour of the pit of misery.
I'm sorry.
Actually, I too will take Utah.
Okay.
Oh boy, that's a separation game. Okay.
Well, I've got two out there now, so.
Temple with a great win last week over Memphis. That was a king pick last week. Temple now heads down to Texas to take on SMU.
I got got Temple again. They're very, very well coached, and that's why I like them. So, hey, he's a good coach. I got Temple.
All right, I also have the Owls.
I think you're looking at a finesse team in SMU against a team that I think tries to beat you up in Temple. I'm going to go with the team that beats you up, Temple.
All right. Safe.
Okay. All right, on to the pros for Sunday. Vikings and the Lions.
I am so angry right now because the pool that I'm in, if I won, I would have won $180. And I knew if I took Green Bay, everybody took Green Bay and I would lose. So I switched my pick on Monday Night Football and took Detroit. And they should have won the game, and the referees stole it, and they led the entire game, and I am golden here. I had the money spent, and they lost. So I think Detroit is going to come back and win and beat Minnesota. I don't think Minnesota is very good. I think Kirk Cousins is not a good quarterback. I got Detroit.
Minnesota.
I got that off my chest.
Good. I'm glad you feel better. That's why we're here. I just don't see good back-to-back games by Kirk Cousins and the Vikings. I'm also taking Detroit.
Please follow Sir Brad. He's going to give you a private tour of the pit of misery.
I'm sorry, what?
Pit of misery! Dilly dilly! Dilly dilly! Please follow Sir Brad. He's going...
This is good. Shamalama Dig Dog.
I'm going to take Minnesota.
All right, you go. Go Vikings.
Well, you're right. This is going to be a feast or famine kind of week.
Please follow Sir Brad. He's going to give you a private tour of the pit of misery.
I'm sorry, what?
Pit of misery! Dilly dilly! Dilly dilly! Please follow...
Okay. Philly, Dallas.
Philly, Dallas.
Boy, how does what's his name, the head coach for the Cowboys, keep his job? You know, but anyway, I got Dallas because they're at home.
I'm also taking the Cowboys.
Wow, this is really amazing.
Please follow Sir Brad. He's going to give you a private tour of the pit of misery.
I'm sorry, what?
Pit of misery! Dilly dilly! Dilly dilly!
So I'm going to go with Philadelphia.
Holy crap. This is a separation week.
I'm going with Philadelphia.
I may not be out of this after all.
You better hope I don't go 7-0, Steve.
I know. If I go 7-0, I'm cooked and fried.
Monday morning, we can be saying, it's over, Johnny. It could really be over.
Or I vault into first.
That's true.
That's true. You go 7-0, you take the lead.
Could have a developing situation.
Dilly.
Dilly dopey.
I love that. That's cool. Okay.
All right. Eagles, Cowboys, by the way, we'll have that on Eagle 107 Sunday night, starting with live coverage at 7. And we also have here in our picks the Saints and the Bears.
I love the Saints. I think the Saints are really playing very, very good football. It's a team that's rallied around their superstar being hurt, and they've played very well. They're not blowing anyone out, but they're playing very well as a team. So I got the Saints.
I think sooner or later they got to stub their toe here with Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback. I think that's going to be this week at Soldier Field. I'm going to take the Bears.
And he's going to give you a private tour of the pit of misery.
Wait, hang on. I got Anheuser-Busch on line 2. They just called to say thank you.
Hey, Brewers Outlet sells it.
They sure do.
Okay, so it's all with the sponsor.
It is.
It's all with the sponsor.
Okay.
Hey.
By the way, I love their new commercial where they where the king goes to the wrong tower for the party.
Yeah.
Yeah, boy, who does that remind you of? Where are we? I'm going with. I want to say, I want to give a lot of credit to Teddy Bridgewater. After everything he's been through and the way he has stepped in, he has played like a pro's pro. I'm going with New Orleans.
Yep. All right.
This is going to be a fun
good week.
Yes,
we got a lot of different picks.
Yeah.
Could be a breakaway for any one of us.
Yep. In fact, one of us may be thinking this on Monday.
Please follow Sir Brad. He's going to give you a private tour of the Pit of Misery.
I'm sorry, what?
Pit of Misery! Dilly dilly!
They never mention who it
saying
is.
That all night long. My wife will come in. I'll go dilly dilly.
It's the little things.
And believe me, on this show, so that's where we go.
I mean, God, we make Hammer sign a time card for God's sakes. You know, it's like, come on.
Oh, I know. So don't forget, we have to punch in our time card.
That's great.
Oh, I don't know what that means.
What day is payday? What year is payday?
Oh, my goodness. Ours is at the end of the month.
End of the month. Happy Halloween.
Right before I fly to New Hampshire.
Let's beat Michigan.
Yeah, this will be a lot of fun, I think. This will be very interesting and a lot of fun. This is why
I don't think Michigan's very good.
This is why you love the sport that you broadcast. Games like this.
Yeah.
It's not that hard.
Penn State.
Not that hard to get ready for, I can tell you that.
Cool.
You're like, oh, well, you've been preparing all week. No, I prepare the same every week, no matter what. But let's face it, games like these are different. It's just the way it is. Hey, have a great weekend, everybody. Don't forget, you can go to Brewers Outlet to stock up for that tailgate. And we're in the Sunbury Motors studio. Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors, Key Routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf.
Your station for news, weather, business, and CBS Sports Radio. News Radio 1070 WKOK Sunbury and on WKOK.com.